Hello and welcome back to another episode of Age Media. It is me, BF Zia, and with me today is my co-host JC McKenty. JC, how have you been?
Doing good. How about you?
Good, good. Just not really been that good. It's just work, man. It's been work. It's doing a full-time job these days. Like I'm usually part-time because I work as a photographer, but it's been a busy few weeks. What about you?
Uh, um, okay, I assume this is the part where you want me to talk about the film, right? Or no?
You can talk freely, man.
I don't know. I just do my thing. The world doesn't need to know what I do. No.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I'm just chilling. It's kind of like my vacation time, but I'm just at home.
Kind of like a vacation time. Cool. Okay. So let's get into the show. So the first story we have comes straight from the White House. Are sleeveless dresses appropriate attire? According to numerous reporters, women have been barred from the Speaker's lobby for wearing sleeveless dresses and blouses. CBS reports that recently, a young female reporter tried to enter the Speaker's lobby, a room outside of the House chambers, sorry, a room outside of the House chambers where reporters generally ask legislative questions or legislators questions. But she was turned away because the sleeveless dress she was wearing was considered inappropriate because her shoulders were not covered. The unnamed reporter, apparently desperate to simply, do her job, ripped out pages from her notebook and stuffed them into her dress, to create shoulder openings where the sleeves are supposed to be. Her improvised outfit was still deemed unacceptable and she was turned away. There are numerous reports coming out from other journalists who have had this problem. There was another journalist who was actually just walking through the uh, she was just walking through the speaker's lobby, and she was barred from going through it, and they offered her a sweater that you can still pass through, but you have to put this sweater on. She naturally opted out of it and just walked around it because you don't need to walk through that place if and then the next policy is that's being reinforced is that women cannot wear open toe shoes. And lastly, men are not excluded from this. The ties are being reinforced. You will not be allowed to sit in the speaker's lobby or ask legislators questions in the speaker's lobby if you are not wearing a tie. And just like providing ladies sweaters, men are provided ties which are considered goofy, and they're called ties of shame. I'll put a picture of it right here. So, so what do you make of this? And would you like to talk about what I made you do right before the show?
Well, you made me put on this jacket. Just like whatever, but yeah, like if the girl's wearing a dress that's like just like this, it's this thick. I don't think that's too bad. Obviously, if a woman's wearing like no sleeve thingy at all, where it's just like comes across here, like that kind of dress, I guess that's a little bit too much. So I can see like, okay, like the girl needs to cover up a little bit more. Like for a professional work setting like that. But I don't know. I felt like, I don't think this is like that big of a deal. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. That's but it's kind of nice to know that it's not only women who are like got like these issues, it's also the guys with the tie. So
Yeah.
it's not just an attack on women. It's like, guys, you need to like step up your game too, or whatever, however you want to see it.
Yeah, and another thing that's being brought up is the weather, that it's super hot, because it is quite an unbearable summer this year. It's been really hot in San Antonio as well. So they're like, it's hot and we're expected to wear like sleeves, and that's another thing that I've been hearing. So I'm kind of completely for it, because even like when I approached this, when I heard about this story, the men's thing wasn't talked about. Uh, so I just approached it, you know, as a male, and I was like, I don't know what goes on in the White House, but given my entire professional experience, I am always expected to wear a suit in a formal setting. And I would imagine anyone who is there at the bare minimum would be in a full sleeve dress shirt with a tie. That is the absolute bare minimum. Like I was watching Narcos on Netflix, and when Pablo Escobar became president, he was going into their White House, and he was stopped by a guard at the outside, and he was like, "Sir, you need to wear a tie. We cannot." And he was the president, and they're like, "You cannot go in there without a tie." So he gave him like $20 or whatever the currency is over there, and took his tie to go in there. So I have a lot of respect for formal attire and conduct. So it makes, like, just from male perspective, I can't see a complaint about being hot. You're not, and because the way a lot of articles are written is that it's hot, generate a little, sympathy. I was like, yeah, but the guys are also fully covered up, so we can't play the gender card. Another thing that people talked about, I came across this story through TYT on YouTube, and they called it, this is the Christian equivalent of Sharia law, where men are telling women what to wear. Like I might be paraphrasing what he said, but that was the effect of what they said. And I thought about it, and I was like, first of all, it's not men or women. It's an elected official. It's the Speaker of the House. If a woman was elected, she would have the power to reinforce that law. And but but right before the podcast, because we have a terms and conditions, not terms and conditions, dress code for our work as well. Granted, the dress code that I have written for Age Media is more descriptive, because I basically copy pasted the dress code from my work for, for our podcast. What's going on in the news is that the that the dress code for the speaker's lobby is ambiguous. It just says appropriate attire. So it's up to the Speaker of the House to determine what is appropriate attire. So yeah, Any other thoughts on that? Am I being like, because I'm for it. You are kind of sort of maybe indifferent towards it. You're like whatever.
Well, I think, well, see, I guess I'm not against the whole, like, okay, you gotta wear a tie, and like, and even though I think this isn't a big deal. I mean, I think, it's like, it's just their way of making sure everybody is formal. Like, if more men start wearing, no ties, and in the future, like, more men might start, like, not wearing ties, and that's just that's like a formality that I guess we don't want to let go of, and so that's why it's like enforced. So, like, like, I could say, well, I don't think that this is a big deal showing this off, but in the future, if more ladies start, wearing something like this for formal workplaces like this, it could get to the point where they start, making it thinner, or just to where there's nothing there. It's just like a straight across dress, and then we would be losing our, like, formality there, if that makes sense, or the formality as we see it now. And so I think that is the reason why they enforce these kind of like dress codes so that we don't lose that sense of formality in the workplace for both men and women. So,
but see, the next question here is, why do we have formality? Why do you need to be formal? Why can't you just be casual and do your job?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can answer that directly, but you know, I guess it's like a outward way, outward way of saying, hey, I'm here to do my job. I'm like serious about what I'm doing. You know, like if I show up to work, you know, in my pajamas, and it's like, you know, it's like, hey, I don't know. It's just, that is hey, let's do, like, I'm here to work and let's do our job, you know?
Yeah, I take, but then the counter argument is, let my work show that I'm here to work. And that's how we do it in digital media. You know, like I have friends at Rackspace, and they tell me that if the IT guy is not looking like a homeless person, that means he's looking for another job. Because that's how the IT industry is. Because most of the IT people, they work from, not most, but a growing percentage of us work from home. And so when you go to their office, they've been given the most leeway. For example, you were in DVCP, right? And Professor Taylor was always dressed. He came in a dress shirt and he looked like he was here for a job. I was in digital media, and Vivian Maria, oh, should it take there? I don't know. She'll be cool with it, hopefully, because you're pretty vocal about it. But my coordinator, she came like straight from the gym, and she was like, "Hey, man," and she was a good professor. So end of the day, it's individual perspectives, I guess, and he is the Speaker of the House. He has been elected to reinforce it. So maybe if somebody more liberal is in the White House, you could abolish it. I, for one, personally believe that your work ethic should be reflected in how you carry yourself, as well as how you conduct your responsibilities.
Yeah.
We went on for that for like 13 minutes. That's going to be fun in editing. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. So I'm not going to play any video. I'm just going to edit the video in post, okay? So 1, 2, 3. What if Donald Trump was a refugee? What if Kim Jong-un was a refugee? Could you imagine all the world leaders or all notable political figures being turned into refugees? That is what Abdullah al-Omari is doing. He is a Syrian refugee living in Germany, and he has taken these paintings of notable figures from Syria, Asia, America, all over the world, and he has stripped them of their power in their painting. You have a picture of Obama, Hillary, Donald Trump, Angela Merkel standing in a food line. You have a picture of notable politicians fleeing Syria. What do you make of this art piece?
Well, I mean, for one thing, the art pieces were very well done. You know, he's a really good artist. I mean, I don't have a problem with him with these paintings at all. He's just trying to. I feel like he's just trying to get us to be more informed, in a way, of like what's going on in Syria and stuff. You know, trying to get us to have sympathy, which is totally fine. I'm not really sure if like the whole, like what if Donald Trump was a refugee? I'm not sure if that says anything to me, because like I'm thinking, well, if Donald Trump was a refugee, if he was born in Syria, then he probably wouldn't be the president of the United States. So it's like that doesn't really say anything to me.
What he wanted to, I saw his interview with CNN, and what he wanted to do was that he wanted to change the focus from numbers to persons. Like he said that you see in the news that you have 1,000 people, 100 people, 10,000 people, million people fleeing away. You don't think of them as people, you think of them as numbers. So his goal of putting recognizable faces to that was to create, to get more of a dialogue going. He is actually not the first person to do this. I'm actually aware of unknown artists who have done this before. About a couple of years back, in the India-Pakistan border of Kashmir, which is disputed territory. Pakistan thinks that they should have it because the partition details are a little difficult to do justice right now. But Kashmir is predominantly Muslim, and it belongs to India, but the Kashmiri population want to be with Pakistan. And it's one of the hotspots for the biggest human rights violations. So a couple of years back, what the Indian Army started doing was that they started firing pellet guns on civilians to disperse crowds. So what would happen with pellet guns is that it would go into the eyes and it could blind the protesters, or so that was a big problem. And what Kashmiris, I believe, started doing was they took pictures of celebrities like actors and stuff, and they basically took their eyes away. Like they made convincing Photoshop pictures of them with their eyes destroyed by the pellet guns, and then they had a story written with their name that I'm sorry that this happened to you, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. You were just doing XYZ. So you had a very famous actor's name next to a story of somebody, and it pauses you and it makes you reflect. So that's one perspective. Another perspective is I was discussing this story with someone at work, and he was like, I don't care for this, and I don't like it. He was like, I don't want to feel sympathy for Donald Trump. I don't want to feel sympathy for these high political figures. So that was another perspective, just giving perspective out here. So what like you already shared what you make of it, but given that what I've shared with you, that this is an ongoing art, thing that's been part of our collective culture.
Well, about the whole like sympathy for like those leaders, that's not how I see it. Like, I guess it's because like I know that Donald Trump isn't a refugee, so even if I see a painting of him as a refugee, I don't like feel that kind of sympathy for him because I know that that's not where he is. He's, so I have more sympathy toward the actual refugees, even if I see like a painting of, a political leader as a refugee. It doesn't really like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that is the intent, but it was another perspective and it was something different. So I wanted to present that to you, so we can just like talk about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get that either, but I just wanted to share it. All right. Now this one is one. This one's a big one, man. What the hell? Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right. So we have this documentary called "What the Hell." It follows. Now I'm gonna do that again. All right. So we have this documentary here called "What the Hell." It is from the filmmakers of Cowspiracy. The film follows intrepid filmmaker Kip Anderson and self-proclaimed hypochondriac as he uncovers the secret to preventing and even reversing chronic diseases such as cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. He investigates big American organizations such as American Cancer Association, American Diabetes Association, American Heart Association, as well as Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Research Center or Advocacy. Might have messed that up a little bit. The documentary aims to reveal possibly the largest health cover-up of the medical industry. So that's just a brief synopsis that I just read. I watched this documentary, so I'm quickly going to dive in of how it's proceeding. The documentary starts with Kip Anderson, who just right off the bat lets you know that he's a hypochondriac. He's got like cancer in his genes, so he's like really worried about it, and he's been trying to prevent it, and he's tried to live a very healthy lifestyle. But then he comes across research that carcinogens are found in all form of packaged foods. So even though he's been living a healthy lifestyle, the food that he eats is carrying cancer. And then he goes on to the websites of American Cancer Association, American Diabetes Association, American Heart Association, and he finds that all of them have diet plans. But the thing is that all these diet plans are actually, they can actually cause the diseases that it's supposed to be preventing. He starts off by trying to reach out to these institutes, and most of them, the representatives are unable to help him. The American Diabetes Association president actually has a discussion with him, and it just goes off like all awry and stuff, and it ends really quickly with the president denying that any sort of information about diet plans is available on his website. He digs in a little bit more onto it, and he finds out that the meat industry, all the food industries are actually sponsoring these organizations, and basically our health associations have sold out. He backs this up with interviews from other doctors, other practitioners, independent individuals. He also peppers the documentary with case studies of people suffering from various health afflictions and so on. So JC, what do we think about the documentary?
I think it was very informative, very interesting, especially with the whole like reveal of these big major meat product companies who are backing up these institutes that are supposed to be like finding cures for cancer, but like they're like the problem for it apparently. That was that was interesting. Mainly because of the reaction though of that president though, when he was like I'm not gonna talk about it. I was like, whoa, like
you're being argumentative.
Because I was thinking like, okay, even if he was trying to hide this secret, right? Like he could have done a way better job of like not making it so obvious that there's something fishy going on here, you know? Like he could have like been more I guess professional and less angry about it. He could have just been like, oh well, we're still doing research, you know, like we're not going to say that meats are bad because this research has just been done recently, and we got to do our part to see if it's correct or whatever, you know. Like he could have played it off like way better than just making it so like obvious that he's hiding something or whatever. There's a dirty truth that he's hiding. And that was what really like, oh my gosh, like this is legit. Apparently it's legit because it's,
Yeah, like I always knew, I'm struggling to, even articulate it because I didn't think that it could, I always knew that there was a little shadiness in every big corporation, but I did not know the extent to which that this documentary sheds light on. But setting all that aside, the documentary moves forward, and basically the conclusion of the documentary is that the only way to live is a vegan diet. That's what I took from it. It even like rejects eggs and milk. They're like, Milk is 100% hormones. Doesn't matter if you're getting hormone free. It's still bad for you. I like basically, this documentary opens up a lot of questions and it makes you more self-aware. Because I would have to look into it a little bit more as to what I'm eating. But I'm probably not going to take this at face value. Like he backed up the corruption within the health organizations 100% well. But I think he's it's like it's almost like from one thing to another. Because first of all, he only talked about the practices of how meat is prepared. Not actually, he did even go and he had like analogies of various animals, herbivores and omnivores, and based on that, he determined that because bears have very small intestines and because they have a lot of acid in their stomach, so they can process meat really fast, whereas we have a long intestine, which means that we are more meant to consume green products rather than animal-based products. I was like, whatever. Uh, I'm not a bear, and I'm not a monkey, and like he even went on to say that moderation is not possible. You can't eat some meat, and so I was like, okay, that's wrong, because it's a documented fact that we have an extreme problem with way animals are taken care of, whether it's fish farming, because you treat animals when you keep animals in tight spaces, you have to treat them with antibiotics, which makes them bad for you, and there's whole lists of reasons why they're bad for you. But what about animals that are not raised in captivity? Like I know people, this is few and far between, but I know people who have animals in their homes. They raise their own chickens. What's wrong with eating a chicken like that? And like, yes, because of pollution in the sea, fish have mercury in them. But what if you can get like what if I'm raising fish in my backyard in a pond, and I'm making sure they don't have any antibiotics. So in that regard, I think he was extreme. And as far as milk and eggs are concerned, I will have to do some, my own research into it if they are really cancerous and can cause hormonal imbalances. Because my mom still is like 60 years old, almost 60. I don't know how old she is. I'm not going to calculate her age right now. But she drinks milk, and we're all relatively healthy. So I don't know, man. It's from one propaganda to another, maybe.
Maybe. I do know that there are some people who they actually have tried to go vegan, or that's how you say it, right? Vegan. Um, and they believed in it. They believe that, I guess, animals have souls, or just like basically animals are like humans. Like, why would we kill animals to eat them? But these people that I know, they couldn't actually handle not having some kind of meat protein in their daily diet. They just had all these other health issues. I don't really remember exactly what they were, but their bodies were weaker, and their bodies were more sensitive and stuff, and just like they were just very fragile, and they had to go back to like eating meat again just because of that. So I do know that, like, I'm not against like being vegetarian, but I do think that it's like not wrong.
But the difference between vegan and vegetarian is that vegetarians are fine with dairy. They will have milk and eggs. Vegan is not even milk and eggs. But I looked into that, like as I was trying to find some reviews on this documentary. I couldn't find in the time that I spent, I couldn't find anything negative on it. But there was an interview that was cut from the documentary, and it was online, and it was by a vegan who actually said the exact same thing you're saying, that she tried vegan and it didn't work, but she is still a vegan. She was like, the reason why it didn't work was because I was not doing it right. I had to research more in the foods that I eat, because you can't just have a cucumber and a carrot and just probably go. So she was like, you need to be more aware of what your body needs, and you have to research more. So that's the
Yeah.
thing. So basically, in conclusion, sorry, JC, in conclusion is that this is a good documentary. It's making us think and reevaluate how we are consuming our, how we consume our diet and how we are dependent on pharmaceuticals. Uh, but at the same time, I think it's a little, maybe extreme, because the conclusion is that pharmaceuticals are bad and the meat industry is bad, which is not the case. I have asthma. I don't know of any, thing that can stop asthma. And as a matter of fact, it's actually triggered by a lot of plant. If I have bananas, that can actually make my asthma worse. If I have an egg, it actually helps me. Like if you're wheezing and stuff, an egg can actually help you.
Hmm.
So and a lot of anyway, I am not a pharmacologist. So the point is that please watch this documentary. It's really good, but think of it as a stepping stone to doing your own research and getting more involved in your diet. I think that's what you take away from it.
Yeah, but also, if I may, not everybody who eats a lot of meat and are overweight or whatever. Not all people like that get cancer or diabetes or heart disease. My grandmother is like 93 right now, and she like
Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
what? What do you say?
Knock on wood. Like
Oh, I see.
God bless her, she is
Okay,
longer.
whatever. And she wasn't like a vegan or whatever. She ate meats a lot. She put butter on everything and lard and stuff. And she was a little overweight for like, a good portion of her life, but she doesn't have cancer or heart disease. I think she did have diabetes for a little while, but for whatever reason, she doesn't have it anymore. So that's I don't know how that's possible, but so it's like, yeah, it's good to like not be overweight. It's good to cut back on meats in a way, but if you are overweight or if you are eating a whole bunch of meat or whatever, that does not mean that you are going to get cancer or diabetes or heart disease, even though it's like more probable that you would, though. So that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, like, okay, like, sure, I'll cut back on meat, but but that's it. Like, I don't think that if I were to change my diet, that I'm going to
See, from what I took away from it was, it's not that you need, like, because the meat that they were talking about, healthy meat, like because the problem is that those animals are treated with antibiotics. The problem is that they show that you're injecting hormones and sodiums and all those things in chickens. But what if they don't have that? Because there are healthier options available of the meat. The problem, what I know is that the problem is not meat; it's what kind of meat.
Yeah, I know. I usually try to like get the organic, healthy meat at like the grocery store, but I don't. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm getting the exact right one, because apparently in this documentary he was saying that even the organic meats aren't good for whatever reason. But so
I think we're talking about the organic milk.
oh, just milk.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe I don't think he covered.
I thought he was basically saying all meat, like don't eat it. That's kind
No,
of what.
that's the conclusion that he made. But like, see, if you but that's what I was thinking. Like, he was like, the water levels, because of pollution, mercury has raised, so fish can cause mercury poison, and you can't have fish in farms because they're cramped and they have infections and they're treated with antibiotics, which can have negative responses. So I was like, okay, fine. Because like, I had a pond in my house, and I would actually used to, because it's really easy to fish like breed really fast. So like, I had a fingerfish in my in my backyard. So I was like, problem solved. I know where the water is coming from. The water is clean. They're not too many. They're comfortable. So yeah, it's basically food for thought. That's it. Don't take it as gospel.
Yeah.
All right. Lost Story. All right. So we have this story from Hawaii where there's this show on TV called Hawaii Five-O. I don't know if you've ever watched it or not, but the actors on that show have chosen not to return for its eighth season because the show takes place in Hawaii. So two of the American actors, well, actually it's all American, but two of the, I guess, white actors have been given a raise, whereas the two other Hawaii cast members, locals, although one is not a local, he's from Asia, but nonetheless, can I just do that again? I think I really messed it up. Okay, sorry, 1 second. Who's texting me? Okay, sorry. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we have next story we have is about Hawaii Five-O. It's a police show that takes place in Hawaii. You have cast from Hawaii and other Asian actors. So in that show, the local two of the cast members have opted not to come back for the show's eighth season because the white actors on the show are being paid about 10 to 15% more. The actors in question are Daniel Day Kim from Lost, and the other one is Grace Park from Battlestar Galactica. So both of them have opted out of the show because they feel they're not being, they know that they're not being paid the same as the white actors. Have you watched this show? What do you make of it?
I haven't watched the show. So it's hard for me to give like my opinion because I don't know anything about the show. I would just say if these two actors are of the same, like if their characters that they play are of the same importance as the other two characters that these two white people portray, they're the same importance. They have this more or less the same screen time. Then yeah, they should probably be given the same pay. And if they're like the main characters too, then yeah, I would think that they should be given very close pay, if not the same. So yeah. Then in that case, if that's the case, then I guess they have a right to complain. But obviously, if these two actors do not have if their characters don't have as important roles in the series or whatever as the other two white characters, then I don't really see what the issue is. But then again, I wouldn't know because I don't know anything about the show.
I watched the show. It was garbage. It was initially good garbage, and then it was just garbage. It was like I likened it to Baywatch for police officers. I watched the first 4 seasons of it. It took place in Hawaii, so you had one of the stars from Lost, and it also had a lot of guest stars who were previous, members of Lost. So that was really cool because I'm a big fan of it. Lost, but the show was just minded. It was a really bad. It is a really bad show. Earlier in the series, they had like an arc on internal investigations, and IA was represented as sort of the villain in the series, and I was like, that's a different perspective. Because internal investigations is actually a good thing. It keeps police in check. So you're gonna make them the villain, but there's resolved that arc amicably, and turns out the IA guy was actually a good guy before he died. So it was weird. And then get this, they had an episode, and this is awesome because it was like a really good episode. It was like really well written. It was about a pool boy dying or something, and some surfer girl was being investigated for being involved in his murder, and the said surfer girl end of the day was involved with ISIS, and she was a Muslim, and I was like, what? the show was like so brain dead. Like I was like, that's not how ISIS works. You don't have a surfer girl in ISIS. That was just so. I'm really happy that Grace Park and Daniel Day Kim are no longer with this terrible show. That's just my opinion because I've watched Lost and I've watched Battlestar Galactica, and those were the reasons why I was watching the show. So hopefully their next show is something on par with Battlestar or Lost, and not what like you have like bad entertainment like Transformers or whatever. It's so bad that it's good, or well actually yeah. But this show was just bad, and it's amazing that it's renewed for an eighth season. I have a friend who watches this show, and she says I don't care for this show. The only reason I watch this show is because it takes place in Hawaii, and I love Hawaii. So yeah, there's that. So Grace Park, Daniel Day Kim, we wishing you best of luck in your next show. We will watch it, or I will watch it. I don't know. You should watch it too.
We'll see.
All right, we're gonna go off.